Hello and good afternoon to you all. Welcome to this exclusive interactive movement based workshop. Where does the notion of gender locate itself in the body? Is there any tension between the gender you have constructed for yourself and the gender that is being prescribed to you? How does masculinity play itself out in a moment of contact with another body? Is it possible for us to allow our bodies the space to resist and disrupt acquired notions of gender? Explore your body and your gender through movement with Mandeep Raikhy, director of Gati Dance Forum, who, as a dance practitioner, explores the intersections between dance creation, performance, research, and pedagogy. Over to you, Mandeep.
Thank you, Geeta, and welcome everyone to this workshop. And thank you for joining this workshop. I just wanted to maybe introduce you to what the next hour looks like, so we have a sense of what we are up for in the next 1 hour. I would like to lead us through a series of movement explorations. Let's say about 3 to 4 of them. What would be lovely, and I really invite all of you to jump in as fully as possible, is for everyone to have the videos on through the course of the hour, so that it's interactive and we have a sense of each other. Especially because it's a closed space, and we decided that we didn't want this to be open for viewing, because then a whole lot of work can happen that is personal and intimate. And so I really invite all of you to come into that space with as much openness as possible. And just wanted to give you right at the beginning, before we start and even introduce ourselves to each other, to give you a sense of where the workshop is coming from. What kinds of concerns does it come from? I am a choreographer, so my in the last many years, my concern has been around the relationship between gender and movement. And I've spent quite a bit of time sort of thinking about how these two are related to each other. And over time, I've realized that there are several very uncanny similarities between dance and gender. And one of those similarities is the training system that they both have. So with dance, the training system is actually quite visible and apparent, also because it is quite voluntary. We choose to go get dance training. We have a sense of who's giving us the information, and we have a good sense of how this information gets translated in our bodies, in being able to do certain actions efficiently, as well as with flow and so on and so forth. The gender training system, though, is a little bit sneakier, because we're kind of receiving it from everybody around us, including parents, cousins, friends, peers, teachers, to television, soaps, to films, comic strips, and books, and so on and so forth. So what we're actually, the instructions that we're getting around gender are pretty much there all the time, since the time that we were born, pretty much from everybody around us. And everybody has to say something about everything we do, including our movement, voice, what to say, how to say it, what we like, what we should like, and what we shouldn't like, and so on and so forth. So I just want us, before we begin the introduction, because I'd like to put this as part of our introduction, is to take a minute to think through perhaps 1 or 2 such instructions that we may remember from our childhood or from when we were an adult, that we may have received from someone in our lives. For example, I remember being told by somebody in a playground when I was about 8 years old by another person who was around the same age, that I move my hips from side to side too much for a boy. So is it possible for me to move my hips a little less? And I remember that was one of those moments that I realized that I was being instructed to be a certain way, and to perform my gender in a particular way. So just a minute for all of us to think through one or two such instances that we may remember. And then we come back to introducing ourselves. And while we're thinking, it would be great if we can go to a gallery view so that we are able to see each other, and also put our videos on so that we know who is the participant of the workshop. Yeah, so just take a minute to think through and then we come back. What I'd like to do is do a very simple introduction to introduce ourselves, our names, perhaps what we do or what we're sort of preoccupied with during the day, and an instruction that we can recall from our childhood or our adulthood. These three things, and then the name of the person we'd like to pass the baton on to, so that we we sort of pass it on to the next person and they can do their introduction, and then we can go smoothly through the introductions. So my name is Mandeep Raikhy. I'm a choreographer, dancer. I usually live in Delhi, but currently I'm in the middle of a year-long road trip across the country. The instruction that I recall is my father telling me roughly when I was about 10 or 9 years old, that I shouldn't play house with my neighbor, that I should be stepping out and playing football every single evening, and he'll stand on the balcony and watch that I actually go to the football field every single day. And the person I would like to pass it on to is Geeta, since I can see your video.
Should mention it's Geeta Lakshman, right?
Yeah, Geeta Lakshman is who I meant.
I thought it was Geeta Vedraman. So I was sitting quiet. Okay, I have to get the questions. I have to introduce myself. So I'm Geetha Lakshman. Currently, I have had a variety of jobs before, but currently I'm with the Goethe-Institut, working at the head of information and library. And regarding this gender thing that you speak about, I don't know, my household wasn't, I would say, we were predominantly women in our household. Like it was my grandmom, mom, 3 girls. The only males were my father and my dog. So my dad could only relate to my dog, So it was a predominantly female household. So, and we were all taught to be very independent, the way we think. And my dad was a great supporter of that. So I've never had anybody tell that to me. And I forget the third one. What am I supposed to share?
And just pass it on to the next person, actually.
Okay, yeah. I would like to pass it on to, because I can see your video, I'm sorry, Geeta?
Mandeep and Geeta. So I would like to share a combination of messages that I received while I was growing up. One was related to my curiosity. I was always asked to dumb it down because asking too many questions was annoying, or people didn't have answers, or it was uncomfortable. And it was related to my gender, because then it would be laced with comments like, ye to wapas aayegi, right since I was a child, because I should be quiet. The point was, even now as an adult, I get this, that you should be quiet, just shut up. And so voicing, being heard, being seen was not appreciated a lot. And on the other hand, I was also criticized for the way my body was shaped, saying that, oh, this is too vulgar. Or I had absolutely no control on how I was growing when I was an adolescent, but I was made to feel shame. And I carried it with me for quite some time before realizing that it is not something that I have done wrong. Thank you. I would like to pass it on to Purnika.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I am Purnika. I am a teacher in Delhi Public School. To me, as per this topic, in the society, it was never in my house, but in the society, we were always asked to be quiet and talk only when if it is necessary. Otherwise, just be quiet and observe.
Hey, I also, like Geeta, grew up in a mostly female household. I have two sisters, so there was no direct comparison. So I could not say this is just being told to me, but not to my brothers. So I also didn't have it in my household, but I have exactly the same thing. I've always been told that I'm too loud. I'm very, when I'm happy, I'm very happy. When I'm sad, I'm very sad. And this has always been a thing that people said, no, psh, you know, don't disturb the others. You're too, I don't know, out in the space somehow. So this has always been something that I'm constantly asking myself, like, should I have said this? Should I not? Should I have been more quiet? And I don't think this has ever stopped. I think I still ask myself sometimes, like, was that too much? Should I have not? So yeah, that's a lifelong thing, I guess. And I'm really sorry for having been a little bit late. So I'm not quite sure who has shared yet. Has Kritika already shared?
So hi, I'm Kritika. I'm the marketing and communications manager at Pretty Factory in Calcutta, which is a dance hub. And yeah, so that's what I'm, busy with. We have a series of multiple projects that I'm, working on. But I have received several instructions, and I continue to actually to this day. I'm going through a divorce right now. So when I was, at my wedding, I was marrying interculturally into a, South Indian family. I'm Bengali. And I was specifically asked to wear their traditional sarees, like the Kanjivaram, etc. And, just like a policing of how I'm presented, as I'm presented, culturally as their quote unquote product or whatever, and not really, not my identity or my culture was not meant to be like, for instance, they have a custom where the bride sits on the father's lap, which is in the South Indian marriage custom and wedding custom. And I said I would like to sit. Firstly, I don't want to do this. Which is another form of a kanyadan, and I had many issues, and I was a troublemaker completely throughout this wedding. But when this kanyadan, I was told that no, this has to happen. I was like, okay, then I'd like to sit on both my parents' laps and not just my father. To which my father-in-law, who's a wonderful person, just looked at his wife and said, oh, okay, so in that case we can say something like, this is not done in their non-Brahmin customs, and they are meant to sit on, so there was a justification needed to why I'm sitting on both my parents' laps. So anyway, I don't know whether this has to do with the body, but it does. But also, so I was asked to wear the Kanjivaram, and I absolutely refused, and I said I'm not going to, and so whatever, all of that. But there's just so much more. I tend to kneecap my sentences, and always, I'm severely, acutely aware that I'm slightly insecure, and my insecurities were fueled by a lot of these people constantly questioning my abilities, etc., through the years, and even till now, actually. So yeah, that's my very long-rounded, winded answer. Yeah.
Thank you, Kritika. And maybe just pass it on to anyone else.
Okay.
Nahid, Adib, Mohit, or Anjana, four people who haven't been.
Okay, just randomly, I would like to pass it on to Anjana.
Okay. Hi, I'm Anjana. I'm from Kerala. I'm a journalist. I'm also a gender activist. That's it. I'm currently making a movie where I am thinking of, I'm doing some gender inclusivity in it.
And Anjana, would you like to pass it on to someone else? I think Nahid is the only one left of the new people.
Wow. Then sure, Nahid.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Nahid from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I'm a literature student as well as I'm working in a startup firm as the operations executive. So the thing is, I have been actually asked and from my early childhood, from my parents as well as my neighborhoods, and still I believe that I have to face all these instructions and kind of mocking and bullying thing. So the thing I have been mostly asked for and instructed for is to, you have to be, you have to actually make it a way as a man. So please walk like a man, talk like a man. So these are the things which actually I have been heard mostly in my life from my child. So yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anybody we're missing out, or I think we've done all the introductions, no? Okay, so let's move to the to a movement exploration, and I think what would be interesting in this workshop is, because many of us have received instructions that aren't directly to do with masculinity, but to do with how to be feminine. And I think it will be quite interesting to respond to ideas of masculinity through our bodies, because I think they're so interrelated in some way that in a way, if you're being told to be one thing, you're certainly being told not to be another. So might be quite interesting to sort of look at how we respond to the question of masculinity. But I also invite you to think about it from your own perspective as well. If you think that you'd rather respond to, let's say, instructions on how to be feminine, but that's also something that you can bring to this next exercise. So what I'd like us to do, and we'll start with our cameras shut to begin with, so we have a sense of a private space and to explore something without being watched, is to, and I'll lead you through this, is to think of an in-breath and an out-breath. And on every in-breath, you think of one body part, and I'll call it out for you in the beginning. Let's say the chin. And in the in-breath, we're just going to think about how we can begin to perform masculinity through the chin. What kinds of instructions can we recall around the chin? How is it possible for us to sort of notice what kind of shift in musculature happens the minute we think of sending masculinity to a body part? And soon enough, I'll remind you to also think that if you're beginning to think of ways in which masculinity can be performed through the chin, also begin to think of how other body parts can join in this exploration. Even though it started at the chin, we also begin to look at how the neck, the shoulders begin to respond to a body part leading. So yeah, let's just begin. Let's put our cameras off. I'll keep mine on just because you don't need to look at the screen. You just need to hear it. You can keep your eyes closed as well. And just begin by taking in an in-breath and then releasing the breath and taking some time, finding a comfortable place to sit. Spending a few breaths just arriving where you are, filling and emptying the body with breath. And on the next in-breath, we're just going to think of the chest as a site where masculinity begins to play itself out. And with the out breath, we empty that away. So really think about falling away, dropping away anything that may have filled up in the body. And the next in-breath, we're just going to think about the elbow. Noticing the shift in musculature. Thinking about ways in which you're expected to perform masculinity through your elbow. And on the out breath, allowing that image to fall away. The next in-breath, thinking about your wrist. And then beginning to think of sending that message of masculinity, sending those instructions that you may have received, heard over the years, and then on the out breath, dropping that away. And on the next in-breath, think about one of your shoulders, perhaps the right shoulder, and think about sending that message. Look at ways in which you can begin to perform masculinity through that body part, and then drop it away. Breathing in. The next time, thinking about your forehead. Breathing out. Breathing in. Thinking about a little finger. Breathing out. Really noticing on the in-breath what changes in your musculature when you think about masculinity. Breathing in to the side of your neck. Breathing out. Allowing other body parts to join this exploration. Breathing in hips, thinking about sending the message into your hips. Breathing out, dropping that completely, really dropping that away. Thinking about your eyes this time, breathing in, really thinking about performing all that you know about masculinity through your eyes. Breathing out, dropping that away. And let's just come back to the gallery view and perhaps just coming back together so we can see each other. We're just going to continue doing the same thing. And this time you're going to think about the body parts on your own. And you can think about unusual places. And I think maybe we can stick to the torso because that's what's available to us also as a performative tool for us in this interface. But you're also welcome to use your knees and feet if you like. But now all we're going to do is to think through body parts on our own. We're going to continue doing this. We're going to continue to do this in this situation where we can see each other. So as you're doing it, you can also pause once in a while to just have a look at someone else or look at others performing and then go back again. And as we do this, I'm going to also add in a sound. So think of it really like a performance, like you're being asked to perform masculinity through various different body parts. Yeah, so really think of it as if you were on stage and as if now very different from what we just did, where it was your own exploration privately. Now we're beginning to think of how we can actually put that performance on display in this interface. Yeah, so we're just going to take a few minutes to do that. So just setting it up for yourselves, putting your cameras on. If you're comfortable, it would be great if all the cameras can come on. And whenever you're ready, beginning to take your own in-breaths. As you do an out-breath on your own, you're already thinking about the next body part. Yeah, so you're kind of like reminding yourself, okay, where am I leading from? And you begin from there and continue. Yeah, okay, whenever you're ready. As we continue, let's just continue to see how we can exaggerate these images so they become sort of really push them to an extreme to see if they can really tear out of your body, so that you're really pushing each of these body parts into a kind of extreme, into an extreme image. Yeah, if you want to keep your eyes closed as you continue to work, that's absolutely fine too. Yeah, okay. So just continuing that for another couple of minutes. Thank you. And thank you for jumping into the deep end, because I really feel like it's a lot to do, to process something on your own and then also be able to share it with others as you're doing it. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to add, before I hear from some of you about the experience, that in the next sort of couple of exercises, really think of everything that you do is the right thing. Yeah, so don't think of it as, oh, what is the right thing to do here? But because it's an explorative space, really just sort of throw yourself in there and say, think that everything you do is the right thing. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, so you don't have this, especially because we're immediately sharing as we're talking about ideas. I don't want you to think that you need to present something which is correct in any way. Yeah. So that's that. So yeah, maybe just hearing from one or two of you before we move on to the next thing, if there's something that that stuck out for you, and in this process of thinking through masculinity from the perspective of body parts, if something opened up for you and you'd like to share that, please do.
I have a confession to make. I think I'm just doing like super stereotype poses from film posters and all these, like, you know, when people say, oh, don't men spread, and that's like the only thing I could come up with, like take maximum space and do these power poses. But this was really the only thing. I really couldn't think of how my chin could be more masculine, but this might be lack of imagination here as well. But I immediately fell back into these, I can do this, you know, like these very.
And it also goes to show that that's the kind of training system that we're being offered also, no? Like the images that we're being offered for being a particular way are also quite extreme. They are these really stereotypical images. So I'm not surprised that they're kind of surfacing through the body. And I was hoping that that happens actually. And that's why I said take it to an extreme, because I'm also hoping that all of those things begin to emerge because of everything that has gone in as instructions. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Anyone else would like to share? Okay, so I would like to propose the opposite of what we've just done. I would like now to think about a kind of departure, thinking about finding a place of rest, finding a way to disrupt these instructions that we may have received. Think about ways to just be yourself. And one good way to think about it is really think as if there's no one watching you. So all of those people who have ever given you instructions or are waiting to see you perform your gender well, they're not there to watch. Yeah, so you're really just thinking, okay, nobody's watching me. What do I really want to be? Where do I want to go? Yeah, so I'm not asking you to lead it with a body part at all, but just really think of different ways in which your body would like to be. And I'm happy for us to close off our cameras also, because then you can really think about what is it that you really like to do, because you're not being watched at all. Yeah. So the only thing that you are being given as a structure for this exercise is a sound score, which I will play for you before we even begin. It's very simple. You will just hear a percussion every, say, 7 seconds. There. It's a little drum beat that happens every couple of seconds. There. Yeah, so all you're going to do is, maybe if you just watch me for a second, I'm thinking, I just need to come back to neutral when I hear the beat, and then begin again. Begin something else. Yeah, so you're just coming back as if the door opens when and all those instructors are watching, and you contain yourself and bring everything up, and then you let that go again. Yeah. Okay. Really thinking about departing and going far away from what is expected of you, almost sort of saying, here you go. I don't want to indulge your ideas. This is what I want to be, and really take it far away. Then coming back every beat to a neutral. Taking one more minute to really indulge yourself. You think about, where do you want to be if you don't want to be where others want you to be? Okay. Thank you. Let's just come back to the group, and would be lovely if some of you have something to share, even if it's a difficulty that you faced, or a sensation that you discovered, or yeah, anything that you experienced that you'd like to share.
Yeah.
Geeta, thank you.
Yeah. I love the concept of this drumbeat that you put in. And I would equate that to my conscience, because I felt that every time I was pushing myself to the extreme, the drumbeat was my conscience, which brought me back and said, no, don't get back to where you were. I don't know. That's what I felt, and others felt it too. But, you know, sometimes you push yourself, and then there's something which always pulls you back, and I thought that was such a awesome touch.
For me, it reconfirmed that life could be so much more comfortable if these kind of judgments and looks were not there. Because I think basically the moment when you say be yourself, you do relax somehow. You find a comfy position that has nothing to do with if the shirt sits perfect or what's visible and what's not. And then this moment reminds you of, no, you know, there's certain rules you need to follow. So yes, that's my taking away.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested actually in what happens to our musculature. If you look at exercise 1 and exercise 2, there's a lot of unnecessary tensing up of muscles. That the first sort of exercise where you're playing out expectations through your body, as opposed to in this instance where there's a kind of giving in to sensation. There's a kind of giving in to rest. There's a yielding into you know, your weight into the chair, which I find that these expectations actually take you away from. They take you away from sensation of your own body. So yeah, I think that's a useful way to sort of think about this also. How does your musculature respond to expectations? Yeah. Anyone else who wants to share something before we move to our last exercise, because we have about 15 minutes? Okay. I'd like us to do one more thing before we finish. I'm just gonna, I've been very interested over time to think about musculature, yes, and how masculinity gets performed through, or gender gets performed through our body and its musculature. But I'm also very interested in how it plays out in interaction with other people. So in a sense, how do we play our masculinities out at the surface of the skin? Yeah, which means that when you're in contact with someone else, what are the ways in which it plays out? Yeah, so I just, since we aren't in a room where we can actually interact with each other, I thought it would be still useful to do this, because it's in a way a very important part of how we play our gender out, because actually it's in interaction that all of those instructions actually also play out and play out socially. So I just want us to think through, to begin with, just a very regular act of, or a simple action of a handshake. Yeah. So 2 hands, they meet each other and there's a handshake. Yeah. I just want us to think through a handshake that is quite equal. So maybe we can bring our hands up. You want to keep your camera off, camera on, doesn't matter. But just really thinking through a really kind of relaxed, equal handshake. And then we part. I'm just going to think through a kind of nervous handshake. Yeah, what would that be? Perhaps it's a quick thing. Perhaps it doesn't quite know where to settle. It's a bit confused about, you know, it doesn't want to kind of commit to a handshake, but there is a kind of tentative nervousness to the handshake. Let's think about it, what I would call a dead fish handshake. Yeah, a dead fish as in like really there is no energy, no effort. It's just like a blah. Yeah, no commitment, nothing really there. Think about a dominating handshake. Yeah, perhaps a handshake that wants to dominate from above. Very often we meet people who want to be on top, right? They come into the handshake like this. So you have no option but to be under them. So really think through what that kind of handshake does, is that it comes from above and it grabs you quite firmly and leaves you no choice at all. Yeah. Let's think of a handshake that sort of brushes in a way, kind of feels the surfaces of the skin. And it's one of those handshakes that can feel a little too intimate in public. And you're just like, okay, what just happened? Was that a pass? Was that a proposition? But yeah. Let's think of a handshake that's warm and reassuring. What could that be? Perhaps one that stays a little bit longer, that's warm, and it sort of reassures you, I'm there. Yeah. Think of a handshake that's controlling, kind of like the dominating one, but this controls you as to, oh, let's go there. But it controls also the kind of direction that they would like you to go into. Perhaps it's towards the chair, but it leads you to the next thing. It's a kind of a controlling one in that way, because it controls the direction. Okay, let's go there. Then there is the bone crusher, the one that goes and it goes, and you're just like, okay, that's really too much force, and we don't need that kind of force. And you really have a sense of somebody sort of telling you that I am the strong. It's threatening. It's the one that's threatening. Yeah, it's pretty violent, and it's telling you, don't you dare. So there is all of those different things that happen just in the act of a handshake, and these are just a few that we thought about. What I'd like us to do over the next couple of minutes is just an exploration with our hands. Yeah, we think of these two hands as perhaps two individuals, and I'm going to lead you through about 3 or 4 things to think about. Yeah, one of the things that we're thinking about is agreement. Are they both in agreement? Or are they in a disagreement? Does one want to do something else while the other wants to do something else? And what do those two things feel like? We're also going to think about weight. How much weight does one hand give to the other? In a way, how much are we pressing into the other? Or how light are we? How light is this touch? Yeah, so we're thinking about weight. We're also thinking about time. Is this interaction quick? Or is this interaction really slow? Because it actually makes a huge difference, because you're thinking about how much time this interaction takes. Yeah. Then the last thing we're thinking about, or last 2 things we're thinking about, is the size of movement. Is this movement really small and doesn't commit to anything large? Or is this a really large interaction? Yeah. So in a sense, how much of the surface are you interacting with? Yeah. So 4 things: agreement, consent, weight, time, size. So surface and size. Yeah. So these 4 things we're thinking about, and we're going to spend about 4 to 5 minutes just exploring that and see what that means to us. Yeah. Okay. And again, you're welcome to keep your camera on or camera off, eyes open, eyes closed. See how that feels, because there's something nice about eyes closed as well, because then let the hands do the work and not the eyes. Yeah. You're going to have a music score to this. Let the hands do the performance. So I'm just going to remind us of those 4 things: is agreement, weight, time, and size, surface. Thank you. I just thought that there are 2 minutes and it would be good to hear from some of you about perhaps this last exercise or anything else that you'd like to talk about. Yeah, before we wrap up, it would be nice to hear some of you just respond to what you may have experienced.
As I said in the beginning, I'm too loud, so no problem. I continue again. I'm
Yes.
the first to speak. Thank you very much. I think sometimes we forget how much posture influences how we feel and vice versa. So I think it's really good to be reminded that lots of these things are postures, and like small changes can make such a difference on how we feel and how the body holds itself. So, I mean, even having only been sitting down, that was quite an experience. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I'd like to go next.
Yes.
So thank you. This was a brilliant exercise in imagining how the body plays out gender. I mean, of course, we're all aware of that, but to actually sit and minutely think about how each body part responds in terms of expectations, gender expectations, or whatever. And while I was doing this exercise, I had my eyes closed and I was going back over the very many different bodily positions / postures that I was, had been pointed out to me over the years, or my mind harked back to when I was in boarding school, and apparently I used to walk in a very affirmative manner and I was bullied for that, or I have a really loud laugh, and people often point out how please don't laugh that loudly, or whatever, or I sitting in the subway or whatever, I spread my legs sometimes, so how that is actually like man spreading, and I am doing I'm whatever I'm whatever. So yeah, so it really helped me think through how I was told, I was instructed through the years, but your exercise also really helped in understanding how the body works.
Thank you.
If I may.
Yes, Geeta.
Yeah.
Last one, Mrinalini, one last word and then we finish.
Even
Yeah.
I want to share something.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. After Geeta.
So, yeah. Do you want to go first, Lily? Okay, thank you. I have to tell you, in all my years of existence, this is the first time I actually discovered my hands, because I have never done what you asked today, which you take for granted. And it was absolutely such a surreal experience. I loved it. And I love the aspect of you bringing in different body parts. And I love the fact of the little finger, which you asked us to think about. And I thought that because for me, the little finger, I don't know, I can't associate that with masculinity. I'm trying to, but for me, it was a finger, which in fact, even when I was a child, I believe when somebody wanted to hold my hand, they always had to let out the little finger, and that's what I used to hold. And that, recall that memory for me, and it was completely, and I'm so glad I was able to come into the workshop, even though I hadn't signed up for it. So thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Mrinalini.
I wanted to share so many things, but I have been a passive participant because I was partly wanting to monitor other things also during the session. But still, I have had an experience of the whole workshop. And what I wanted to share was all that happened in this 1 hour. In the first segment, I really could feel an expansion. I mean, like I was using more of the inhalation than the exhalation to experience the masculinity in the different body parts. So it was more an outward movement or a raised movement that was more predominant. And in the second one, where you really said you completely relax and you want to be what you want to be, that's when it was like you can actually become an observer of your own body. So I actually wanted to jump out and see what actually my body wants to be. So, but that was a thought. I knew it was a thought. To come to an experience level, I think I need to, do it many more times in my own. But your instruction will always keep coming, and thanks for that, and I'm looking forward to that experience. And in experiencing the hand, as Geeta already said, to differentiate between which is yours and which is not. The idea of you playing the chess game from both sides. So you are, you, to which do you identify, and the other one, whether you can really interact with your own without putting your idea or expectation. So how do you create a surprise for your own self? And that was a thing, reaction that was happening with the body and the mind. So I mean, it's been a very wonderful experience, bringing in a lot of things that I haven't still explored with. And though I couldn't actively participate, these will definitely keep running into me. And I mean, I want to share this not just as an organizer, but as an artist myself, So thank you so much. It was really wonderful, Mandeep.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, please, Devendranath.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be in this platform. So I just got into the last moment. Say, being as a male, it is not always like, masculine. It's just the kind of, the conscious thought process when you just did that bank exercise. So the moment when we are conscious about the society or the performance of the body in a particular time, in a space, and how you have to be and what is expected from your body, that time you have to perform that. And the social conditioning and the body's memory and the performance as the gender, then only we are performing that. Otherwise, the body is being in that spiritual space where we are feeling that I am myself. So thank you so much, Mandeep, for this wonderful session. I'm a theater person, by the way. So I'm sorry, I just got it with the help of my friend. She's not well, so I just continue this.
Great. Thank you. And thank you all for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandeep, for this interactive workshop, and to all the participants. I'm sure each one of you would have had a surreal experience with different and unexplored body movements.